The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook, download their top-rated app, and use promo code RTRS. And brought to you by LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. Adam Kasabi, the official realtor of the process, at processrealtor.com. Big Barker dog beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. And brought to you by our friends at Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, the Sixers just fucking give us a noogie by truly blaming analytics for the problems. Finally, we get our front office upheaval with one of the best general managers in the NBA available. They make changes by getting rid of all the Sam Hinkie guys, keeping all the Brian Colangelo guys, and rebuilding that way. But they did bring in a couple of people. We'll talk about that as well. Also on the show, Mike O'Connor built a trade for every player on the Sixers that I'm sure the current front office will take a look at and just add shit to going out. And return to relationship advice, Lorenzo Brown mailbag, and if Mike can stand it, some passages from Fantasyland to the Rat Race.
Oh, God.
By Scott O'Neill and Eric J. Hines. Yeah. We have 1 week left to raise money for the Bark in the Park team. We're over our goal of $10,000. We raised $10,400, so thank you. And you can still join the team if you want. We have till next Saturday. Just go to our page at rights2rickysanchez.com. If you join the page, if you join the team and you raise $50, you get the t-shirt. Thank you to Big Barker and LL, sponsors of the team and this particular pod, for supporting us and buying the shirts. Donate money. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who is taking a break from watching the famed Halloween movie Hocus Pocus over and over to do this morning's pod. That is Mike Levin.
Good morning.
Morning. Have you ever seen Hocus Pocus?
Probably.
My wife loves it. I hate it. I saw 15 seconds of it once and it made me mad. So I hated it. But I know you're not a scary movie guy. You don't like being scared, right? So
right.
I thought...
But that's not a scary movie.
Right. So I thought that might be your Halloween. Do you have like a Halloween movie of choice? Do you have a scary movie that you like that you could recommend? It is the season.
No.
'Tis the season. No.
I have nothing.
Not at all.
I have nothing at all.
So, I mean, look, the front office overhaul seems complete in the same week that Daryl Morey becomes available. This is not a statement about the two people that they hired, which there's very little information on that I could find on. There was more information on Prosper Karangwa of his like playing days than him being a scout. There's not a lot of information there. There's more on Dinwiddie. This is not a negative about either of those two people at all, because maybe there's a lot of good positive quotes about Dinwiddie, whatever. Mm-hmm. And maybe we could get Caitlin Cooper on. Maybe she would be good to talk about him, I think. Mm-hmm. But when you think about the energy and the quickness with which they worked to get Doc Rivers, as soon as he became available, because they said, oh my God, look at our chance to hire the 11th best coach in the NBA and pay him $8 million a year. They flew him out. They watched the finals with him. They hired him within 48 hours, as soon as he became available. To give them credit, I guess in some way, they saw something that they thought was valuable. They showed that they have the ability to go obtain that thing if it's available. Oh my God, look at this, our chance. Whether I think Doc Rivers is worth that, whatever. But they saw that and they did it. So this very week, I think somebody that everyone would at the very least suggest is one of the 5 best basketball executives in the entire NBA becomes available. One that they had flirted with before, at least in the public sphere, we were told they were. Daryl Morey becomes available, at least to all of our understanding.
Yeah.
And there was not that same energy, obviously, to, as soon as it became available, a bunch of people asked me, what are the chances? And I said, it seemed not impossible to me, right? It seemed not impossible. It seemed like 5% chance.
Because they do like a shiny new thing.
Yes. They were interested in him before. Obviously, he speaks a similar language to what they do. And we'll get into Dinwiddie in a second, because I think he probably speaks a similar language to what they do, meaning the owners. He is a impressive thing to hire. They would look cool if they did it. I don't know if he would work for them. I don't know if he used them before as just a bargaining chip to get a 5-year extension from the Rockets. I don't know what happened. But you would think here's my only thought, is that if he was not interested and not available and we would have heard that, just to quell all of the energy that came up. If they were interested and he was, if there was anything but now we're not interested, I just thought we would have heard about it. And it was so not surprising but disheartening to me that there was just no energy to talk to the fucking guy at all. And maybe if he is insistent on not doing it this year, if there's a secret deal between him and the NBA, I don't know any of this because of the fucking Hong Kong tweet that he would walk away for a year. I don't know that that's true. I don't know any of these things.
That'd be ridiculous.
It would. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know any of those things. But what I do know is that he is unquestionably one of the 5 best executives in basketball. He became available. They had talked to him before. They need a head basketball executive. They even had hired the coach that was rumored to have been going to Houston, who you would think that Daryl Morey approved of. I'm at a loss for words. I don't know what to say.
I'm not surprised. Daryl Morey is one of, if not the most important executives in modern basketball history. Obviously, Houston never got there all the way. They should have a couple years. Chris Paul getting hurt, missing 27 straight threes. What he did there was very, very impressive. And never, we obviously thought that the Sixers totally blowing it up was the right way to do things, but for him to maintain how good the Rockets were and giving them a shot every year and rebuilding on the fly and continuously trying different things, adding high level players, being willing to be flexible and change the way the game's played. Really, it's really very impressive that he was so successful at that. And obviously now looking back, it's just threes. It's pretty easy to see that. But at the time, and over the course of those, maybe 5 or 6 years where it was really stark that Houston was doing something that nobody else was doing. Kind of. It was. It was a ballsy way to play and a ballsy way to assemble a team. And he's made a lot of, I don't know about enemies, but people that don't detractors, I guess. And he's got gumption. He came on this podcast.
Well, by the way, I don't think even we at the time really gave credit to how ridiculous it was that he came on the podcast for an hour a week before the playoffs started. He must have known he was done at that point. I don't think.
I think he just likes a podcast.
That's probably possible too, but do you know how hard it is to book an NBA general manager for an hour-long conversation a week before the playoffs? It doesn't happen. He must have known he was leaving at that point.
Maybe. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Maybe. But the way I look at it and why I kind of didn't think it was going to happen is, and this could be folded into the discussion about hiring these other two guys, is like there is a rooting interest or a what's the best way to phrase this? I'm going to talk about Scott O'Neil. So that's the end of this. It is from where I sit. Scott O'Neil wants it to be his show, and he's the one who came up with the ideas, and he's the one who guided it, and he's the one who made it successful. And
to him, in his mind, right.
Yes, and hiring Doc Rivers is a show of, hey, I went and got the coach. I went and did this. And now he's going to take us places that Brett, who fucking Stinky hired, I bet he calls him Stinky. And I get to I helped Brian with his staff, and he actually had a great staff, Brian did. He made a couple mistakes, and those are now rectified. This is Scott talking through me. But I think under the current situation, this allows Scott to take credit for their success while still having, as always, plausible deniability and snaking out of blame when they're not successful.
Can I tell you whatever?
Let me just.
Okay,
I think bringing on Daryl would abdicate himself of that credit, and that would be Daryl. That'd be Daryl's show. It'd be like, we got this guy, and then Scott would be over selling tickets again.
I do enjoy your focus and turn to Scott O'Neil over the last 3 weeks. Whatever caused it, he's always been in your worldview, but just moving him to the number one guy is impressive by you. I appreciate it. I wonder if, I don't think what you said is impossible, and I agree that he would feel that way. I wonder if he had that sort of influence over the Doc Rivers thing. I really get the sense that the Doc Rivers thing was all Blitz and Harris and a little bit of Elton. So, he may fight, he wouldn't fight against Doc. I don't think.
Right. But he can just be like, oh, that was the coach, but I'm the one pulling the strings.
Right. He may fight against somebody like Morey because there is no fucking way. Knowing what the relationship between Hinkie and O'Neil was, there is no. Now, I will say that Morey is, given the owners that he has worked for, and the situations he's been in, unable to bottom out and always having to make the playoffs and these things that he has clearly done a better job of managing people within the organization than Sam did. He would be a better person at tricking Scott O'Neil into thinking that he liked him than him actually paying attention to him, because he's obviously good at that. But I think Scott O'Neil would definitely be threatened by Daryl Morey in a way that he is not threatened by any of these guys.
Sure. Yeah.
I agree.
I think, look, these guys seem interesting. I love Peter Dinwiddie's last name. I really hate Peter Dinwiddie's haircut. Yeah. Guys got to do something about that.
By the way, I just got a text message from a NBA front office person. Texted me, the Sixers just now. The Sixers got a superstar with the hiring of Pete. I haven't heard from this guy in a year. The Sixers got a superstar with the hiring of Peter Dinwiddie. I don't want to say that part because that would give it away. He went from entry-level sales guy to working his way into the basketball department. That never happens. His story is awesome. Go easy on him out there.
People seem like they like him.
Yeah.
People are very impressed by him. There's, in Indiana, that seems to be the case. Cool. Great. He's the number 2 now. He's, being billed as a salary cap guy, which doesn't necessarily bode well for Ned Cohen because that was also what he was billed as, but I don't know if it's that, one-to-one. Ned Cohen keeping his job, Alex Rucker being reassigned to play gin rummy with Matt Klentak. I don't really know. These places love not just firing people or getting rid of them.
Well,
they're just pushing them out until they go somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't think Ned Cohen was ever all that involved in basketball decisions.
Right.
Alex Rucker was. Alex Rucker was widely seen as the number 2 behind Elton Brand, and that is more important here, given that the number 1 did not have as much power as the number 1 normally does. So Alex Rucker is generally seen as, like, this is me speaking, like, look, I think if Ned Cohen or Alex Rucker found another job somewhere, this is I mentioned this at one point, that this was and you could tell this from Sergey Oliva and
Phil
Jabor, that
our guy,
that
we've always loved him.
They knew they were gone. They had to know they were gone for a while, and that the Sixers allowed them to not lose their jobs, but to find another one. I think it is telling that if Alex Rucker does not find another job somewhere, I think it is telling that he will just accept this demotion into the corner, like maybe he's in charge of equipment, like Howie Roseman was for those couple of years when Chip was there. I think it's I actually think he shouldn't be anywhere near me. I don't think he should be anywhere near the front office. Like, I don't think he should know things. So if they are making sure that he doesn't know anything, I think that is smart. I don't care if they pay the guy to sit at home. I personally don't care. I don't need blood in that way. But he can't know anything, is my opinion.
To me, these guys are so replaceable.
Yes.
I don't think Rucker is like this, like, the problem. Like, I don't think that's
disagree.
like getting rid of him is like the thing. Like, it's still the Colangelo thing in place. It's still Scott O'Neil that hired the Colangelo thing in place. It's still these owners who have allowed this thing to be in place and give the job to a guy who is like, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know.
Right.
So that they could have this collaborative thing. Like,
the infrastructure of all of it is
infrastructure is still in place.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure Rucker had hits that were him driving the bus and failings that were him driving the bus, like everybody has. And so, but I just think that the organizational structure, the situation, it's just like, it is wrong. Like, it is entirely wrong. And I don't think that it will be right until there's like a full, like, top to bottom purge, instead of this like kind of half, like, shuffling out of order that we're going to do. So hopefully Daryl Morey takes the next 2 years off. This goes to shit, and then we hire him and sell the team and stuff.
Yeah, because it won't be long before it's blurry again. It is to your point. It just won't. It won't be long until there's a leak of like a Doc Rivers Elton Brand disagreement, or this was Peter Dinwiddie's guy, or this was Elton Brand's guy, or something like that. What I will say about Rucker, I'm not even talking about basketball acumen. I'm not looking to pin anything like that. I think there's a danger when people are overly concerned with what the public discourse is. And my impression is that he is overly concerned of what the public discourse is. Sure. To your point, though, you are right. Like, this starts at the top. It does. It has been a malfunctioning, like, gross way of doing things, and there are people involved in this that we like and that we have relationships with. I've said a million times, I think Elton Brand is a good person, a smart guy, has a future, all these things, but he's involved in all this shit. And going to hire Daryl Morey would have been a moment where they said, even if they had kept Brand under him, which I expect they would have been this moment where they could have really made a statement, one that they haven't made since they hired Hinkie in 2013.
Sure. It's just, I just don't think that there was ever a world where that happened. They've been saying Elton's the number one guy for a couple months now.
But maybe they were...
And they've been, whether it's Elton or whoever, has been leaking to Keith Pompey that, like, Dan Analytics is the problem here.
Well,
And like everyone hates this guy analytics, and if he hadn't told us to go sign 18 power forwards who only shoot 15 footers, then maybe this wouldn't have been here. So now that all the math's gone, we threw out all the computers.
Yeah.
We're good. It's fine.
Thank God.
We are in 1996, and we are ready to go.
Thank God we got rid of all the Hinkie guys. Thank God.
Yeah, for sure. Really solid stuff.
Before we talk more about the two hires, let's talk about our sponsor, not a numbers guy, just an eye test guy, Adam Kasabi, the official realtor of the Process. No numbers, only eye test. An email from a very happy Kasabi Ricky listener. Recently, I ran into a PA real estate related question that I was unsure of who to turn to with. Then when listening to the podcast, I realized there was only one person to turn to. I reached out to Adam Kasabi. I also had no idea that's how you spell Kasabi. And he was able to give me really in-depth and helpful answer very quickly. He didn't need to help me as he wasn't getting anything out of it as a realtor, but that didn't stop me from giving him giving me great advice. My experience has got me thinking even more about buying a Delaware beach house from Adam with those low Delaware taxes. See, Kasabi's just sitting there waiting to help you. KSEBE. KSEBE is Adam Kasabi, or you can go to processrealtor.com. Look, he sent me a house this week, a Lewis Beach house, 2,300 square feet, split into two different units for $499,000. So basically what you're talking about is if you put 20% down, a $2,300 mortgage payment, you are, with two units in there, you're able to rent that out, pay that mortgage and more for the rest of the year. And I'm telling you, moving further away from cities is going to be a fucking thing. Don't wait. Low mortgage rates, moving away from cities, low property taxes, Delaware beaches. I am telling you. Or he can't sell you a house in PA or New Jersey, but like that emailer said, he will help you. He helped me. My refinancing is done. So I refinanced my house at a super low rate, 2.75%. Now's the time to do that. Adam can help you with that too. 302-864-8643, 302-864-8643. You can call that number or text it or email adam@processrealtor.com. Kasabi, Ksebe. All right. So Peter Dinwiddie, as we said, going to be the EVP of basketball ops.
Terrible hair. You really got to look it up.
I saw it on LinkedIn.
Poor guy. Yeah. Just shave it off or something. I don't know what the answer is, but it's not that.
Yeah, I have a great barber. I haven't seen Nafis in 8 months or whatever, but I love him to death, and I'm sure he would cut your hair, Peter, with a mask and outside.
He looks like Crispin Glover.
Yes. Oh my God.
It's not a good look, man.
Or who's the guy that was in? Who is the guy in Back to the Future? Is that Chris? No, that's not Crispin Glover.
That's Crispin Glover.
Okay, yeah, he looks like him. So he starts out as a ticket sales account exec in 2006. Then they make him the director of group sales for 2 years. Then he's group sales and group events until 2012, where he makes this fucking crazy leap from. And I don't want to. He goes from ticket sales and group events. Hey, Scott. Hey, to basketball operations. The leap that Scott O'Neil was never able to make. That no one ever gave him enough. See, the difference between Peter Dinwiddie, it seems, and Scott O'Neil is one of two things. Either he is charming enough to get his way from marketing and group sales into basketball operations, or he actually has enough basketball acumen to convince people that he should be able to do it.
That's it.
Right.
Because there's no way that there's like Scott. I don't find Scott charming from what I've seen.
Right.
But I do think that he is like willing to. He has enough like conniving in him to make it come off that way and get what he wants. So he really just has to not have the basketball acumen, and Dinwiddie must.
Yeah. I mean, he at least must sound like it, So congratulations to Dinwiddie for doing what Scott O'Neil never could. And look, he did it in six years when he became VP of basketball ops. Here, Scott is his 15th year in the league and still just
doing group sales
and snake logos and yada. Anyway, people speak very highly of him. So he interviewed for the Bucks GM job in 2017. Some quotes courtesy of Derek Bodner at The Athletic, who found them from somebody else. He didn't get these quotes. Donnie Walsh was his like mentor. We'll get into mentors when we talk about Scott O'Neill's like paperback book with the bad art on it.
Come on, stop teasing it.
All right, sorry. This is from Donnie Walsh. He definitely has what it would take to become a general manager. He may know things. He may know things, but he's not going to ever think he knows more than everyone else or that he's right all the time. And this is a quote from Larry Bird. He was in every meeting. He talked to the league on a weekly basis. He did trade calls. He talked to agents. He did most of the contracts at the time, and now he's probably doing them all. To see his growth over the years has been pretty impressive. So...
Sorry, I had to hop on my hog during that last call. Keep going.
I don't know. So, I mean, he's built his way up. I am not one to say that, look, you don't have to go to basketball college or have been a professional basketball player to have to become a personnel person, right? Especially if you know what you know and you know what you don't know. If you know contracts, if you've watched enough guys in the league to know if they can play at that level but don't know college, it's an important quote, I think, especially for somebody who doesn't have a history in basketball evaluation, which Dinwiddie doesn't. From the surface, it seems like a good hire for his number 2, but I don't know anything more than that. I think we should definitely get Caitlin on to talk about it. But that was my impression. I wanted to shit on it, especially when I saw the group sales ticket thing. But then I'm like, no, like that's pretty cool that you were able to do what Scott O'Neill couldn't.
Yeah, people seem to like him.
Yeah,
that's Indiana has not had a ton of success in free agency. Obviously,
and that's not his fault, right?
No,
yeah.
but they've managed to build a like pretty good team for quite a while. Mm-hmm. I wonder, I think the Brogdon move was excellent. Mm-hmm. TJ, come on. I think that they've done a nice job to get as close as like that team could without just striking the lottery with a Giannis type player. So I'm glad. I'd rather people like him than not like him.
Sure.
So good for this guy. I know you said there's less on Prosper Karangwa, which is a really cool name.
Yeah. I was going to ask, I'm sure you remember watching him at Siena.
Well, he's a little before my time.
Okay.
My Siena teams were like 3 years later in the like Ronald Moore, who Jake Pavorsky knows from TBT. Mm-hmm. Ryan Rossiter was a pretty good player over there. There's a couple other ones. My Siena team, that was like in the 07, 08 range. But I did do a little bit of research. He was a 6'7" wing who as his final year there, he basically took over point guard duties as well and became kind of like an MCW type.
All right, so we should roster him.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's only 42. He's from I think Rwanda. He's an interesting. I mean, he was the best player on the team in 02-03. So that wasn't that long ago.
Mm.
I'm fine seeing what he's got there. So he's shot 85% from the line, getting the line a lot. Like, let's go.
Well, the free throw thing, look, his athleticism can fade, but I bet he can shoot free throws.
That's all it is.
Yeah. So he played at Siena, he played overseas for a couple years, and then he had his own scouting service, like formerly of the Ricky, Ilan Vinokurov, and also of the Ricky, Mike O'Connor worked for Elon, but that's what he did. Then he was just a scout, the Midwest scout for the Magic from 2012 to 2016 when they picked Oladipo. And then he was the director of college scouting with the Magic from 2016 to 2020. Look, you can look at the Magic picks, and the problem is just because you're the director of college scouting doesn't mean they pick who you say. So
right.
So they made some good picks and some bad picks, and who knows?
Sure.
But
John Isaac, I'm a big Chuma Okeke guy who they drafted last year in a similar kind of. Embiid falls to 3 because of the injury. Okeke fell to 16 because of his ACL. not obviously the same level of prospect, but like a Covington style player. So yeah, I mean, I'd rather people say they like people than not. He seems cool. I'm not I'm not throwing a party for some deck chairs, but maybe it's, as we said before,
that's the title of the podcast right there.
But as we said before, it's like
not throwing a party for some deck chairs.
Doc I think is a good coach. I think he's a better coach than Brett, and I think at least it was time for a new voice and some new situation. Dave Yeager, interesting assistant, number 2. We'll see how he handles the defense. We'll see if that improves.
Silent R in the middle of his name.
Yeah, but ultimately, it's going to come down to Ben and Joel. Like, obviously, it'd be nice if Tobias got better. It'd be nice if Horford was, able to move laterally like he could earlier in his career. I think there's going to be a decision to make with Josh Richardson. I would love for them to trade him for someone who could really dribble and shoot easier. But ultimately, it's going to come down to, are Ben and Joel willing to take the necessary steps forward to improve their game? And as much as I really want Sixers front office, Sixers ownership to watch Jimmy Butler, take Miami to the brink of a title and feel shame that that the Sixers are now, in the same conversation as fucking Minnesota and the previous Chicago regime, which what an embarrassing party to be in. I also want Ben and Joel to feel that a little bit. I want them to be like, we should be that good. Like, we need to be that good. We need to be willing to do whatever it takes. We need to get our conditioning up. We need to be willing to shoot. We need to be willing to, play with a level of togetherness and lead the team, all that stuff. And so if they don't, it doesn't matter how, bright these, young assistant GMs or whatever are, or even how much of a slimy snake Scott O'Neil is. If Ben and Joel get us there, then they'll get us there, like, even in spite of those things. Because, like, it's not like, the Lakers last year, like, were a shit show, like a total shit show.
Yeah.
And then they got the proper guys and they took them there,
Well, to your point,
things get glossed over and made to be all fine and good and fun when you win a championship or when you get there. But every team is dealing with some level of bullshit or, chaos somewhere. And so it depends on your best players to get you there, and then your role players to, hit the shots when it's time for them to hit the shots.
I think, to your point, it could definitely be obvious to us that Ben or Joel, or Ben and Joel, have taken that necessary leap without the Sixers being, like, right now, you could say that the organization failed those two guys. Absolutely, for sure. You could say that, but you could also say, all right, but even so, I look at those two guys and I don't see best player on championship team right now for either one of them.
Yeah.
We could at least get to the place. I think what Doc Rivers could do, theoretically, is at least get to the place where we look at one of those guys and say, oh, well, that guy has taken a clear leap, not an incremental leap, not a, wow, Joel seems to be a little bit better at passing out of double teams, or Ben went from 59% to 60% shooting free throws, right? Like, there can be this this real leap where we say, all right, the players around them are not good enough, but one of those guys is clearly a guy. Like the guy. So maybe at least we get that. I don't know. It's what's keeping me alive.
I was listening to Bomani Jones, who I like a lot. He
would come on the pod if you would like. I had him on my radio show once. We could get him on.
Yeah. He was talking about, I forget who he was talking to with, but he was saying, might have been Vinny Goodwill, where he was saying, like, about Ben and Joel, that Ben hasn't gotten better at all since a rookie. And I just don't agree with that. Like, he has turned himself into, I would say, the single most versatile defender in the NBA.
Oh my God, you
don't agree?
No, I think he is really good defensively. He has the ability to be that. He is still sort of overrated defensively.
Oh, I don't agree with that.
I would rather have PJ Tucker on defense.
If you needed one possession, Ben would not be the guy that I pick, right? I'd still pick Kawhi or LeBron, like those kinds of like. I think there's more guys there, but I think as far as legitimately defending 1 through 5 and taking on whatever matchup he has to take on, he's not perfect. I'm not saying he's the best defender in the NBA or like he's an anchor of your defense or anything, but I think versatility wise and like being able to say, hey, go do something with this guy. I think he's there. Wasn't he first team all defense this year?
Yeah, but so is Robert Covington. Is he the most?
Yeah, Covington's the man. We love Covington.
I
And both of those guys over 3 years with the team, like, got significantly better on defense. And whether that's them or the coaching staff, who knows? But it's probably a combination of both. But that is something that he has clearly gotten better at. Embiid has clearly gotten better, like you said, a little more incrementally at stuff. It'd be nice to see one of them all of a sudden come out with like, I do this now.
I agree that Ben Simmons has gotten better. What I don't agree, and I think you would agree, is that he has not taken the same sort of like big step that you would.
Oh no, for sure.
You would hope.
For sure.
Do you want to do a little relationship advice? I feel like we're in a good run of like good questions of relationship advice. Brian.
Sure.
Brian, should we when Scott O'Neal finally leaves, I feel like we got to rename it from Brian Colangelo relationship advice to Scott O'Neal relationship advice.
That's fine, and that hopefully that's a carrot to dangle for Scott to leave. You'll get your own segment, Scott.
Relationship advice.
I keep my heart under my pillow with my teeth and other lies. I've been waiting on your halo just to shine the light.
Music, of course, coming from Eliza Hardy-Jones. He says we can use his first name, so this comes from Darian. I figured I might as well pose this question here since I'm unsure of what to do. You can use my first name. By the way, let's make relationship advice brought to us by Kinetic Skateboarding. Mike, it is hoodie weather. The hoodies at Kinetic are fucking flowing right now. Just flowing, hoodie after hoodie after hoodie. If you need a new hoodie for the fall, go to kineticskateboarding.com and use promo code Dave Silver for 9.1% off your first order. Okay, and I figured Jones, for Eliza, there's the Ben, his brother's Andrew, is married to Eliza. Anyway, so I've been friends with this girl since college for 7-ish years. We've been close and consider each other close, if not best friends since then. Of course, we've had feelings for each other at various points, but never actually dated, just a few hookups. She's currently in a serious relationship, think considering engagement, and 2 months ago, she called me drunk and confessed her love for me. We both knew the feelings were there, but we let it all out and told each other what we feel. Since then, we've sort of been in an emotional relationship. She lives in a different country right now, so I haven't been able to see her. Without getting into it too much, we've been very frank about our physical and sexual attraction to each other as well. Let's leave it at that. Whew, thank God you left it at that. I didn't want anything more graphic than that. My question is, it's clear that she's committed to her boyfriend and she's explicitly said she isn't leaving him, but she's also said that she's deeply in love with me in the same way. My question, is it time to break this off? It seems very unhealthy, but I love her too. I'm currently single, but obviously this may be playing a part in me not actively seeking out another relationship. Any advice you have would be appreciated.
Wow.
Sucks.
We are
on a number of
levels.
levels.
As we said, experts at everything, and relationships and cross-country relationships, intercontinental, the intercontinental champions, really. It's tough. I think that if this is a person who is, close to getting married or engaged and is still making drunk calls to their kind of ex, to say
I love you,
how much they love them and stuff, then it's like, I sort of land on then you're that kind of person, and even if it went well and these two people ended up together, then maybe she does that to someone else. I don't know. I kind of think like cheaters cheat. But I don't know. I can imagine how tough that is. I feel for the guy.
So I've never cheated, though I don't necessarily agree with cheaters cheat. Here's one thing that I think could be happening. She could be on the precipice. I don't know how old anybody is, but she could be on the precipice of this engagement wedding. And she is feeling pressure and fear and all of those things. She is reacting in that way by going to something that is both emotionally supportive and unthreatening. That is you. You are far away. She knows that you will back off if you need to. She knows that you're always there. I'm not saying that like she's being dishonest. She's probably being honest. But there are a lot of things that go through people's heads when they're finally making that leap. Oh my God, is this the right thing? So on and so forth. I think like it is possible that she is like feeling pressure and confused and all of those things. That does not make her a cheater or a bad person. It just makes her human. Though she could just be a regular cheater. I have no idea. You could just be one in the list of thousands of text messages. I have no idea. I would tell you that you should back off for a while. If she was interested in being with, here's the one thing that I will always say. If she was interested in being with you, she would just be with you. She's comfortable enough with you, all of those things. She would just be with you. So the only thing that you are hanging on for is that little chance that she actually breaks off her engagement or potential engagement to come there with you. The only way you're actually going to know that is by separating yourself and forcing her to make a choice. So I would tell you that you should tell her with all due respect, I don't think this is right. And you should don't blame her. Always take, in any situation like this, take the blame. Say, look, I can't handle this. I can't handle having these conversations with you when I know that you're in this relationship because it makes me too jealous and I'm distracted and I want to see what else is out there. I love you. I've always loved you. I think you're a great person. I can't talk to you anymore. And who knows? Maybe she flips out, books are you allowed to fly to the United States now? You're allowed to come here. You're just not allowed to leave. Maybe she books a ticket, comes to see you, tells you she loves you in the rain, like in, what's that movie? Chasing Amy. And you don't end up together. I don't know. But I think you got to break it off. I don't think you can have this conversation anymore. You're just going to end up miserable. And she'll end up miserable. And you could end up being part of ruining. Maybe she does actually want to be engaged to this guy. And this guy's going to see these phone calls or these text messages and you're going to blow it up. So I would peace out. So there you go. There's my opinion. Never a better time to talk about our sponsor, LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
Yeah, if that girl's boyfriend is listening to the podcast,
yep,
and wants to, commit on that hypothetical, we got a guy for you.
LL Pavorsky Jewelers is the original sponsor of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. He just sold his 200th engagement ring to a Rights to Ricky Sanchez listener. Mike, I can finally tell you this story, and I don't know. I think I may have told you this off air, but we got an email from Charles, who was number 100, and I have always said that there was a really good story from Charles about the 100th ring buyer. And here is the story. I don't think I've ever said this. And he said, I just wanted to clear the air. Spike, I didn't mean to reject you officiating my wedding, but unfortunately your lack of rabbinical credentials would have made it difficult to convince both families that you were the man for a job. No offense. I guess this really wasn't a question. I don't want the other listeners to think that 100th guy is an asshole for turning down Spike. But here is the funny part, the amazing part. Charles buys the 100th ring. I look at his last name, and I did not know LL when I bought my engagement ring. I bought my engagement ring from Charles's father at a different jeweler.
You did?
Yes.
Wow.
And I've never met him before. I never met Charles before. I saw his last name, and I said to LL, wait a minute, I think I bought my engagement ring from his dad. And I emailed the guy, and I was like, is this guy your dad? And he said, yes. And I didn't ask anything more because I was like, well, why didn't you just buy it from your dad? I just sort of ran from that question. But he does say that he was an anti-Hinkie guy, his dad, but whatever. That's
Maybe his dad's rings suck.
You never know. I'll tell you whose rings don't suck. That is LL. I saw LL the other day. I was actually in the store. Talk about a safe environment. Nobody else in there. LL with the mask and the face shield. Looks like a welder, a doctor/welder in there. Everything just clean and nice. And he is ready for you. He wants to get you an engagement ring if you need it. Or here we go, dude. We're not far from Christmas, from the holidays. You need a gift. If you need an anniversary gift, whatever, he is your guy. He is doing it by appointment only. So you'll be the only one in the store. 215-627-2252 if you want to make an appointment, or email him, lee@llpavorsky.com, or just tweet at him at llpavorsky. Of course, supports our Providence Animal Center, Bark in the Park team, and Coded by Kids. That is LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
Good enough to shun your father.
Oh man, that is a rough one. Do you want to go? So Michael Connor. Okay, I'll let you choose what we do next. Michael Connor came up with a trade for every Sixers player. I wanted to sort of go through some of those, see what you thought, or some readings from Scott O'Neill's first book, From Fantasyland to the Rat Race, from 2005. What would you rather do here?
I don't know that I could prevent my fingers from clicking out of the window if you start reading Scott O'Neill's book.
All
and
right.
that's just my fingers talking.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the book comes out in 2005. And we just recently found this. It was a friend of the process that sent me this. Hey, did you know about this other book that Scott wrote? Of course, his new book, Be Where Your Feet Are, comes out in the summer of 2021. This book, if you're on the YouTube, From Fantasyland to the Rat Race, is a practical guide to thriving in the real world by Scott O'Neill and Eric J. Hines, who appears to be the mayor of a town in New Jersey,
Great.
and also a financial advisor.
Scott's one of the most I'm friends with a mayor people I've ever heard of.
Especially in New Jersey, right. So I just wanted to read some quotes. Like, look, the book is full of a lot of quotes from a lot of different people. I will also say this. The book does have some good information. I will say that. If you're working in an office for the first time, it's not all bad information. A couple of things that I found were interesting. The quotes are all in italics, but you will see that even though they wrote the book, Scott O'Neill and Eric J. Hines quote themselves. There are quotes from themselves in a book that they wrote. So the regular font is them, but also the italicized font is also them. This comes on page 71. The subject line is, "Be careful of the witch and the wicked. Do not let them bring you down. These people initially disguise themselves as friends, and they are not. Others will, quote, diss you from the beginning, and you will spend hours and energy trying to get them to like you. Spend time with those people who believe in you, help you, and want to see you succeed. Do your best to spend the majority of your time with those who care. Do not get emotional or take it personally if you hear the bitterness of some or feel the jealousy of others. The price of being a successful person is that oftentimes there are people in the organization who will not like you. Take the high road and, quote, kill them with kindness." I'd like to let you know that diss, others will diss you, is in quotes. So you have any reaction to that?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. This one I like a lot. The subject line is "Keep it."
Did you read the whole book?
Yeah.
You read the whole book?
I read the whole book in one day. And this just shows. By the way, our other prospective guest, did you get that book in the mail?
What?
We had another prospective
I
guest.
thought you were talking to someone else.
No, I was talking
"There's
to
someone
you."
else here?
No.
Yes, I did.
Okay, I
haven't
just want to
started
make sure.
reading it.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. We'll get the interview on the books and then you can start reading. Okay, so subject line is "Keep it real.
Oh my God.
Do not be a poser."
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God. Do not be a poser. Dress the part, yes. Act the part, yes. Be coachable, yes. But keep it real. No one likes a fake person, and most people can see right through you. You must be sincere and strong in your convictions. Although communication with your boss is crucial to your success, make the conversation about quality and not about quantity. Avoid the label of being a brown noser. It will significantly affect
Oh
your...
my God. All this is projection.
Page 75 is one of the times that he's...
You're going to help his book sales. This is you
I know.
helping his book sales. This is like when you
know.
got... When
Well,
you helped Bodner's Patreon work.
Can I tell you? You could buy the book for like $2 on Amazon used.
Not worth it.
From
Not worth the
Bookseller.
money.
So this is one of the times where it's italicized. So he's quoted. He's quoting himself. This is Bruce. It is a coworker. Obviously, it costs $1. Is that too high a price to pay for looking for a professional? Huh? We have clients through here every day. This is not the way I want this place represented. This isn't a fraternity party. Are we clear? Scott, and Bruce, your belt doesn't even match your shoes. Who taught you to dress? Ray Charles? Get it? Ray Charles is blind. Everybody, this is quoted. Everybody within earshot was laughing except for me. I could feel the heat rushing through my body and my face getting more red by the second. I had 101 smart aleck comments on the tip of my tongue ready to unleash, which I fortunately kept to myself. It did not take long for me to clean my act up. I took the abrasive lashing for what it was, good sound advice. I learned about dry cleaning that summer because I took that VP shirts to the dry cleaners each week. I also learned the importance placed on how you look in the office. For better or worse, perception is reality. If you are dressed slovenly, it will be assumed your work is slovenly. Mike, any comment?
I'm out of them.
All right.
I'm out of comments.
Maybe one more. Do we want to do, I'll let you choose. Do we want to do work hours from page 41 or signs of confidence from page 120? Work hours or signs of confidence? Mike. His advice?
No.
Signs of confidence. Have you ever seen someone walk in the room and immediately capture the attention of the people in the room? These people have self-confidence and it shows through their presence. Oftentimes, it is almost as important to be able to carry yourself with the confidence as it is to have confidence. His advice, walk tall. Posture often tells the tale of a confident person. Eye contact. Look people in the eye when you speak with them. Laugh at yourself, which I'm sure Scott is very self-effacing.
Oh, yeah.
Be humble. Do not confuse confidence with cockiness. Don't be defensive. And then finally, the likability quotient. Confident people often attract others. The likability is usually not easily explainable or clear.
Oh, my God.
Don't you wish you had picked the trades?
Did I pick the trade? Did I not pick the trades? What did I pick?
I thought you picked Scott O'Neill.
I said I'm going to click out of the window.
I misunderstood you. All right, we'll go to the trades. We'll go to the trades and then some mailbag. Mike did a good thing, traded everybody on the Sixers. Now, these trades are not, they're standalones, right? They're not conditional of the other trade. So they are as if they're the only trade that was made. So trade number one, the Sixers get Nick Batum and Terry Rozier. The Hornets get Tobias Harris, Zaire Smith, a top 8 protected 2023 first-round pick, and the OKC pick. So, one, how do you grade that from a Sixers perspective? And two, do you think it's realistic?
I've targeted Terry Rozier a bunch.
Yeah. That's a quote.
Nick Batum is
Well, he's inexpiring.
pretty washed up.
Yeah.
He's expiring, but I think that they would probably like to get something out of him. Mm-hmm. I wonder if there's like a little, I don't know, the way that like Rudy Gay is like still fine as like a second unit. I wonder if there's like a little bit of that with Nick Batum, but I don't know, man. He hasn't been useful in a long
time. Yeah. You know the Sixers, they always get the best out of everyone too.
I'm really not as interested in trading Tobias Harris as other people are. I think the best version of the Sixers, now that I wouldn't have signed him to this huge contract, I wouldn't have traded for him, but the best version of the Sixers currently is Tobias just like continuing to get better and fit in better. Is it likely to happen? Probably not, but he's shown penchant to improve, and his defense was better last year. I don't think that it is worth, trading, because there's an argument to me that the Sixers Tobias is the best player in that trade. I mean, Rozier's a better fit for sure, but like you never want to trade the best player in the trade and extra picks, know?
Well, he's a
they already
negative,
signed him.
Yeah, he's a negative asset at this point, and to your point, I don't think he is negative. Trading him is not going to give you cap room, and he can certainly be useful for you in some way. So unless you're making a trade that somehow now I guess the question is, do you think they are better on the floor if the only thing that you do, like forget about the picks for a second, if the only thing you did was trade Tobias Harris for Terry Rozier and Nick Batum, do you think the Sixers would be better?
I think that they would need to trade Josh for a shooter, like a real shooter, but probably.
So then I think you would have to think about it.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's where I would sit on it. I agree with you in terms of like, you don't have to be so, I actually think they have to be more desperate with Horford, not because I think he can't play for them, because I think it's a sign that they have to give Embiid actually. But I think Tobias Harris can be a positive player for them, even though he's a negative contract.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I thought about when we talked to Ryan McDonough. They gave away Rashawn Holmes for cash considerations. Mm-hmm. He's become a very fine, just like roll to the rim big that can be okay enough on defense and block shots. He's certainly gotten better from his time here. And instead of developing him and keeping him for cheap and having him back up Embiid, they decided to let him go for cash and then give Al Horford as much money as they possibly could. It's remarkable. I mean, remarkable futility.
It is
on that front.
It is fun. It is fun.
There should not be a 0 to 100 back. It shouldn't be either Greg Monroe in a playoff game 2 weeks after you sign him or Al Horford for as much money as possible.
Yeah.
Like there's a middle there, and other teams have found it, and the Sixers decided the middle is stupid. We don't want to sign a backup center for like 3 years, $15 million. That's ridiculous. Let's instead either nothing or the most.
His second trade, speaking of Horford for Andrew Wiggins.
No.
Really?
Not a chance. It doesn't make them better. What does Wiggins do that would make them better? At least Horford is a serviceable backup center without. And again, you've already paid him the money.
Yeah.
Like he's already there. Like in a world where you need to check things off a box. You need to check, just like get them. Okay, we don't have that. We don't need that. We don't need that. Like this would add another unchecked box and be even clunkier, remarkably more clunky if they find a way to do it. Maybe Embiid loves Wiggins because of their Kansas days together. I don't know, but he's not good. He will occasionally do impressive stuff, but guy's just not a good basketball player overall.
Trade 3. I'm sort of like in between on it. I feel like you got to. I don't know what the Horford market is, and I feel like you probably got to trade him. That Wiggins contract is, having the Wiggins contract and the Tobias Harris contract is just really just impressive in some way, I think. Yeah. But trade 3. Sixers send Josh Richardson to the Pistons, and back they get Aaron Holiday, Doug McDermott, and the 54.
The Pacers.
The Pacers. Aaron Holiday, Doug McDermott. He wrote Pistons, but it is Pacers. Aaron Holiday, Doug McDermott, and the 54 pick.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat. Yesterday.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
They like Aaron Holiday, though. I don't think they do this trade.
Trade 4. I don't know. This one's boring. It's a Mike Scott trade. Who cares? Let's go to trade 5, which the Heat would not do. But Joel Embiid for Bam Adebayo, Andre Iguodala, Kendrick Nunn, and their 2023 first-round pick.
The Heat absolutely do this.
No, they would not.
Yes, they would.
There's no chance. Zero.
Yes, they would.
Zero chance. They wouldn't trade.
They know how good you need to be to win a playoff series. They would like in a high level. Bam is great. I love Bam. I kept him in the execs league last
one
year,
that I
and John
won?
Gonzalez, and then John Gonzalez laughed at me, and he had a great season. And then John Gonzalez single-handedly derailed the league, so I wouldn't win.
That's why I left the league after I won it.
He started coronavirus, so I wouldn't win the execs league. But Embiid he's just a head and shoulders. His upside is just like the best. Embiid is a better defender than Bam. Interior, he's obviously Bam is a little better on the perimeter, but I think Embiid in a Miami Heat conditioning program could be better than that, and also Embiid is worlds better as an offensive player.
So
I think that they do it.
I
wouldn't do it because I obviously love Embiid, and
Yeah.
Kendrick Nunn is domestic violence. I'm not interested.
All right, do we have to whatever? I don't feel like getting into that. I don't think either team would do it, to be honest with you. I don't know that we have even when players improve as much as Bam Adebayo has. I don't think we really know what their ceiling is, and I think there is some thought that Bam Adebayo is like close to his ceiling or something. But there's so many things he could add to his game, and he's so much better at things now than he was even a year ago that I don't think either team would do it, to be quite honest with you. So I wouldn't do it if I was the Sixers, because I don't think Bam Adebayo can be the best player on a championship team, which is the only thing that I would. And he's such a bad fit with Simmons that I don't like. I just don't think it would work. But and the 2023 first round pick, Miami doesn't really tank out too much. None is a useful player, but he's not a starter, I don't think, on a championship team. So, and on Iguodala is certainly a wait for the playoffs player at this point in his career. All right, before we get to this one, before we get to the Ben Simmons trade, Big Barker, therapeutic dog beds. If you're like me, you got to get your dog a present for Christmas. Like, dogs are not stupid. They know everybody else is opening up presents. They got to get a present as well. What better than to give your dog a Big Barker dog bed with a Process Pup patch? Not only something that the dog's going to look at and go, oh my God, this is awesome, but you know that this bed is actually helping their health, helping their quality of life. BigBarker.com/Ricky. BigBarker.com/Ricky. Go, you get the Process Pup patch, and you get a bed that has been proven by science to help your dog's quality of life, help your dog's joint health, your overall life quality, pain severity, joint stiffness. All these things has been shown to actually improve because it's an actual bed that is designed by experts to support your dog's joints. Go to BigBarker.com/Ricky. Also, you can go to the Process Pup section of RightsRickySanchez.com and see how supportive these beds are. You can lay on it yourself, honestly. Here, they have a 1 year, they'll refund you. Here's what I'm telling you. Before you even give it to your dog, order it, right? Lay on it. Realize the difference. Just you as a person laying on it, between that and the bed that your dog is sleeping on, and I bet you won't return it. I bet you won't. Dogs are living, breathing animals that have joints and need to be supported, and that's what Big Barker does. 10-year warranty, the foam doesn't flatten or they replace it for free. 1 year at-home trial. As I said, they will not only refund your money, but they'll pay for the shipping to send it back if you don't like it. Handmade in the USA. Big Barker dog beds. Ben Simmons trade. The Sixers get Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Tomas Satoransky, and a top 8 protected 2021 first-round pick for Ben Simmons.
No.
You're not a Zach LaVine guy, right?
I've never been a Zach LaVine guy. I think Kobe White's could be pretty good, but I'm not a Kobe White guy either. Some people are like really big Kobe White guys.
I'm iffy on him. Satoransky's
nice.
Useful.
Yeah, for sure. But I just don't think that's. I don't think any of those, the sum of their parts, I don't think equal Ben Simmons.
I mean, I would do it. I like Zach LaVine a lot. I think, if you're betting on the Bulls, the 2021 first round pick, like, they've been shitty. There's no evidence they won't be shitty. I think maybe Ben Simmons raises their floor to a 35 win team or something, but well, no, I mean, like, they have a shitty team. It's not like you put Ben Simmons on a shitty team, all of a sudden he's not LeBron. LeBron went to a shitty team 1 year ago and that team didn't even make the playoffs. So I don't know.
He hurt his groin.
What's that? He hurt his groin for the last 25 games they weren't making the playoffs when he hurt his groin either. Yeah. So I don't know. I think you're getting two playable guards in Satoransky and Levine, a possible future super playable guard, and probably a mid first round pick in 2021 when the cap is all fucked up anyway for Simmons. I don't know. I think it's a fair trade. I would say I would do it. Luke Kennard for Matisse Thybulle and Shake Milton.
I like Luke Kennard a lot.
He's good,
but I don't do this. No, it's he's expiring first of all. Mm-hmm. Or I'm pretty sure he is.
I'll look it up.
And Shake is excellent. Like,
I agree.
It is the idea of giving both Shake and Matisse for a guy who I believe is expiring.
I'm looking it up now. He's actually got he will be a restricted free agent. Now, look, I would say this is not a bad time to get a restricted free agent in that it's not like Luke Kennard's going to come in and demand $20 million a year. He's probably
for sure. But Matisse and Shake are under team control for so long still. Yeah, that it really is kneecapping you.
I think like Luke Kennard is obviously good. He was hurt a lot last year. I think I would trade Thybulle for him if that was it. I would not trade Thybulle and Milton for him.
Sure.
Especially with what Milton showed him what they need. And then finally, Furkan Korkmaz for Khem Birch, who you like, the number 45 overall pick and a 2022 second round pick. I would not.
No, I mean, in a world where the Sixers had a lot more shooting and not Al Horford, then sure. Khem Birch has always been for me the kind of guy that says like, hey, you can find backup centers kind of everywhere if you are good at this. And I wouldn't ever really. There's not that many centers I would draft in the first round. Embiid is obviously one, but Cody Zeller. I'm not a James Wiseman guy. People are talking about him as like a top 5 pick. I don't think he does much. And so there's guys who are just like, hey, well, if they're not like a game changing center the way that Embiid is, and I would now add Bam, that kind of thing, then you can take a swing on guys to be like, hey, maybe they'll figure it out and just kind of be lunch pail guys and be big enough to come in and absorb fouls and contact and protect the rim for 15 minutes a game, late in the second round or undrafted or whatever. And so, but we need Korkmaz more than we need another backup center. It's
funny you said in a world where he had a lot of shooting. You could also say in a world where Furkan Korkmaz isn't the Sixers' best 3-point shooter.
That's right.
Yeah. Couple of mailbag questions before we go. The Brian Colangelo mailbag, 1/2 basketball, 1/2 non-basketball, writes to Ricky Sanchez at gmail.com. This isn't a question, Mike, but I had to send you this 2 email. So Larry sent us 2 emails, one about 4 days ago and then one today. I want to read you the one from 4 days ago, which was sort of puzzling to me, and then the one from today, which made me laugh out loud. Larry says, hi, guys. Big fan of the Sixers. My family are Sixers season ticket holders for many years. My nephew-in-law turned me onto your podcast, which I've been listening to pretty regularly, and now has turned me into a big fan of your show. I want you to consume all of this when we get to email 2. So what is it with you guys and your issues with duty and ass-wiping techniques? And wanting to know about your listeners' best bathroom disaster stories. I thought I was the only freak who was obsessed with that kind of stuff, but I didn't think I'd ever be bonding over that kind of stuff with my favorite Sixers podcast guys. Anyway, I believe I've got some bathroom disaster stories I believe will fit in perfectly for what you're speaking. Happy to speak with you and share them. I guess you could call me an expert on bathroom etiquette, as I wrote the below book on that just 20 years ago. He sent his book. And I believe I can give you some good feedback and insight on many of your burning bathroom questions. Hope to hear back from you guys. Best regards, a big Rights to Ricky fan. Second email from Larry came late last night. Hey guys, you can disregard my email. I realized that somehow I had been transferred onto Doug Mann's podcast for bathroom disasters. I wasn't listening to you. Sorry about that, but I'm a huge fan of your podcast.
Great. Thank you, Larry.
He was listening. He accidentally, like as a new podcast person, ends up on Doug's all bathroom podcast.
Which is great.
And
you should listen to Duty Calls.
Yes.
There's not a ton of Sixers in Duty Calls.
Yep.
And there's not a ton of Sixers in this podcast, but there's more.
Like he didn't notice that the podcast had become all about duty.
That's right.
And our actually, we'll do one question and then a final note, a final email from our friend Chris Vito. But this comes from Lionel. I'm first and foremost a Nets fan, but I love the process, and the rights to Ricky Sanchez has been instrumental in getting me through quarantines. It feels like the Nets and Sixers are natural trade partners. The Nets have an abundance of ball handler shooter types, and the Sixers don't have any. Who would say no to something like Embiid for Jared Allen, Taurean Prince, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Karis LeVert?
Me.
Allen replaces, this is the my favorite part of it from the Nets fan. Allen replaces 75% of Joel Embiid. And the other guys replace an infinite percent of the guys you don't have. For what it's worth, the concept of Taurean Prince is great, while the actual player is not, and the Sixers would definitely end up maxing him out. I agree with you on Taurean Prince. Watching him, you think he's a 3-and-D guy, but he's kind of like a chucker. He's kind of a ball hog when you watch him. I would not do this. I love all those players, especially Karis LeVert, but I would not do that. You would not do that.
Yeah, I mean, people are just too willing to trade Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons in trades. I just think that they are the guys that you tank for to get those guys, and then it is easier to get the guys around them. There are more guys to surround those players with. Just because the Sixers have been really dumb about it doesn't mean that it's not easy to do.
Yeah,
it is like, look around the league. Look at like the Blazers or the Hornets or any team and think like, yeah, we could, if we took three of their like 4th to 8th best players, we'd be in good shape. But they don't have the main guys that we have. And so it is just about getting a couple of those very abundant, normal types of players. KCP was very helpful in a championship team surrounded by 2 of the best players in the league.
Well, KCP also got paid $20 million a year and was like a tool to
Of course.
LeBron.
I'm just using it as an example. But there are those guys. Those guys exist. The Sixers haven't shown an interest in guys who can shoot and dribble. That's fine. Going forward, I would recommend that they do, and that they not trade Embiid and Simmons for 4 quarters.
The only problem they have, I don't think those guys are as abundant as you think they are. But let's say that they're somewhere in the middle. They're out there. You can find them. I think we would agree on that. The problem they are in is twofold. Their cap situation is so bad that they will basically get minimums and the mid-level exception, and they just have to re-sign their own guys because they're so far over the cap anyway. You should trade one of them if you believe somehow that it is impossible to change your roster enough the way it is to win a championship. Like, you can say it's easy to get those guys, but even if they cost $8 million a year for 3 years, they can't sign them.
I think there's ways to do it. I think there's ways to do it if you attach picks to stuff, and if you go all in now. Like, I'm not an attach picks to everything guy, but like, you have, like, Matisse and Shake are like genuine like players that you can slot in to like your top 8 or 9 players, and hopefully they keep getting better, obviously. And so like, you got them on the cheap. I believe in Zaire, but maybe it's not going to happen here. So whatever, like, attach things that they have to do. 2nd round picks, like, you need to you need to surround Embiid and Simmons with the right team to compete for a championship and set them up the best. When they were in their first playoffs, like, they were immediately good. And they lost to Boston. That series was closer than it was, and they melted down in places, and Ben wasn't great, but like, he was a rookie. Like, we can get back to that if they just surround them with shooting and 1 to 2 guys who can dribble. Well, it's just not, they've made it look so hard. They've made it look so hard. And it's not. It really, really isn't. And so trading Josh for a player that will shoot quickly and maybe dribble is the first step. And then if Dinwiddie, the guy with the bad bangs, can find one gem that they can, finagle over here, then we're set. It's not much, but they haven't done it. That's all I'm asking.
And then his non-basketball question, many of the dimensions by which you guys probably define yourselves are publicly known. The Ricky for both of you, the radio station, veganism for Spike, comedy, I don't define myself that way, comedy writing, and depression for Mike. What is an important part of your self-conceptions that we may not know about?
Depression is a tough way to define myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on, the radio station for me, I mean, it's not like... Well, but he's saying that, so is there a part of your self-defining characteristic that you do not think comes across as a publicly self-defining characteristic?
I don't know. I'm pretty, I'm an open wound.
Yeah.
There's not much I'm hiding.
Yeah.
No. This is it.
It's hard to do 2.5 hours of pod every week for this many years. At one point, it was just 1 pod a week, and not have people sort of know who you are, I guess, I'm not really a crier anymore. I used to be a crier. I don't think there's much. I think people pretty much, but if you think that my self-definition is the radio station and being vegan, that's not actually how I would define myself, but I don't know. I think I come across as pretty much how I am. Just maybe a little more annoying on the pod than I am in real life, but I don't know, maybe less. Who knows? And he says nothing proves the process works more than the process going off the rails. You either know that without this you either know this without explanation, or you're wrong. And finally, a note from our friend Chris Vito. Yeah, former Sixers beat writer. Hi, Spike and Mike. Hope all is well with you guys. Temple Student Newspaper each year puts out its annual Lunchies Awards to recognize the best food and lunch trucks on campus. It's a proud tradition that I took part in way back when, and it dates back at least 3 decades. And while most every student editor on staff highlighted a meal or an order at a specific truck or vendor, Sixers Adam went with Cantaloupe from Home. Not only was it the worst food take of all time when he announced it in the spring, but he perpetuates it again and again several months later. I just had to pass this along because of its complete absurdity. Stay safe, and thanks for the pod.
What an absolute monster.
He's just doubling and tripling down on himself. He's a take machine.
Such a unique little man.
He really is. He really is. He really is. I wish people knew more about him. Maybe now that we're in the off season, maybe I should make him like top 20 romantic comedies of all time. Maybe we can get a deep dive into that from him or something. I feel like we need to know more.
I DM Adam every time I see something from like young Sixers Twitter that I don't understand.
Right. Like a joke or something, like a meme.
Or like, more like, what is this? Who is this? And he's like, oh, this is her. Okay, thank you. I'm out. I think I'm out.
Well,
I don't have it anymore.
It's been fun that the podcast has gone long enough for you to go from being Sixers Adam to being me.
I like to think that that would not be how I define myself on either end of that.
All right, we'll talk to you later this week. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, lick face.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you. If you don't fuck with me,
then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
if you don't fuck with me,
Then I won't fuck with you.
but if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you!
Time for plan B.